Thank you to Peter May and the CBD Chamber of Commerce for the opportunity to speak today. I've been a member of this chamber for a number of years now. I've made a lot of friendships, both professional and social. I see it as one of my most valuable resources. Now, I've only got 10 minutes and I'm going to use that time to explore what the future of commercial and residential property looks like in the wake of COVID-19, how property investment has changed in the wake of COVID-19, and some tips for owners and buyers. For those of you who don't know how Providence Property Group adds value, we help first-time and experienced property buyers buy at the right time for the right price with the best outcome. Now, instead of taking on the monumental and often risky journey of buying a property by yourself, Providence acts as your representative and expert consultant, if you will, when buying a property. Here's a chart displaying the Australian quarterly GDP growth. Now, I've circled the 1991 recession in red, and I'm showing you this chart because the main question on everyone's lips is, what will happen to property in the future? Now, we only have to look at history for our answer, and history has shown that despite global crises such as the GFC, the 91 recession, the 87 stock market crash, and outbreaks of illness like SARS and Ebola, the Australian property market has remained resilient. In fact, following the 91 recession and also the tech wreck in 2001, the Australian property market boomed, and it's regularly seen as a safe haven for investors. Now, if we compare where we are today with where we were during our last recession, our property market's certainly higher. In fact, over the last 25 years, up to 2018, the Australian dwelling values have increased by an average of 6.4% per annum. And there are many historical examples, as I said before, of crises and economic turbulence. But basically the summary of those events are that property is less volatile than stock and property recovers quicker. I'm not poo-pooing stock in any way. I'm a huge advocate of diversifying your investment portfolio. We've got some fine equity advisors at the CBD Chamber of Commerce. At Providence, we believe that in a year from now, 5 years from now, and most certainly 10 years from now, this pandemic will have had no influence on where the Australian property market's going to end up. Australian housing values have not seen any evidence of a material decline in April 2020, despite a sharp drop in market activity and severe weakening in consumer sentiment. Sydney values have remained positive. They're around 0.4% up for the month. The sharpest decline or reversal in growth conditions can be seen in Melbourne, and that's where values have dipped into negative territory. They're down 0.3%. To provide some context, the 6 months prior to March saw both cities averaging a monthly growth rate of around 1.7%. So we're certainly seeing a negative trend here. This chart shows the average discounts being given by sellers, and by April, all markets saw an annual decline in vendor discounting. But as the market turns, vendor discounts are likely to become larger and more common. Australia's largest cities have the highest risks of downside risk. And I'm talking about Sydney and Melbourne, arguably showing a higher risk profile relative to other markets due to their large exposure to overseas migration as a source of housing demand, along with greater exposure to the downturn in foreign students, stretched housing affordability, and already low rental yields. And they're likely to reduce further on the back of rising vacancy rates and lower rents. Now, this chart shows the amount of new listings. In 2020, that's the orange line there, we can see that the unemployment rate is tipped to be above 9% by Christmas. Now, the uncertainty of stable employment has immediately removed a lot of would-be buyers from the market. Boom, they're gone. On March 25th, bans on public auctions and open homes were introduced. The effects of this were significant, and with limited ability for people to view properties and bid at auction, many sellers actually just withdrew their property from the market, or they delayed taking the property to market altogether. And this has resulted in a shortage of properties for sale. And this combination in the reductions of buyers and sellers has resulted in a decrease in transactions, and has probably kept the property prices from seeing significant volatility. So that could be seen as a good thing. Now, CoreLogic estimates of settled sales plunged around 40% in April. And if you actually just look at the amount of people using the CoreLogic app at the moment, the user activity is down by 60%. So after 6 weeks of a ban, it was lifted, auctions and inspections have commenced. During this time, Providence has definitely bought some great properties for our clients. You just need to know where to look. People are much more open to negotiation and there's a lot less competition out there at the moment. But you still need to be very, very cautious of what you're doing. Now let's talk about commercial for a moment. We're seeing falling valuations and an oversupply of office space in the CBD markets. It's not a healthy diagnosis for the commercial sector. Disruptions to trading conditions and the impacts on rental flow, it's already and will continue to hurt commercial property over at least the next 6 months. A fall in valuations is definitely going to create serious headaches for some of the more highly geared people, the investors there, but it's also going to create some once-in-a-lifetime opportunities for potential buyers. So just keep your eyes open on what's going on there. We always tell our clients that you make your money in a boom, but you build your empire in a downturn. 2020 is a big year for the commercial space. This chart shows that the expected percentage of increased delivered commercial square meterage space in both middle ring and inner city for Sydney and Melbourne. The numbers are crazy. In Melbourne, nearly 400,000 square meters of supply is expected to be delivered by the end of this year. It's the largest increase of commercial space in 30 years. It's just nuts. The Sydney market's expecting 150,000 square meters to be added by December. Providence definitely does purchase commercial property. We're quite concerned or cautious when it comes to retail. We don't recommend that to our clients, but it's important that if you are a buyer at the moment and you're purchasing commercial property, office space, etc., it's important when buying commercial during this time that you know as much as you can about your tenant and you make sure that you're not in a position where vacancy is high and you've got no income. Now, to finish, I just want to give you some tips. First of all, don't panic if you have exposure to the property market. This is a short-term market devaluation. Property which was purchased with a long-term view, it will thrive. If it was purchased well, it will be fine. Buyers definitely need to be patient and because there's less available property at the moment. And this is always frustration for active and committed buyers. As Australia progresses through COVID-19, we do believe that during the next 3 months, we will see an increase in the listed properties that are coming on the market. And that's because people are going to look to offload investment properties, holiday homes, the stuff that they can't financially support, basically. Now, the percentage of properties sold prior to auction at the moment is the highest it's ever been. That is a clear indication that sellers are open to negotiation. So please be prepared and negotiate. Don't make the mistake that everyone selling at the moment, though, is desperate. Our agents on the ground believe that the majority of those selling at the moment are not distressed sellers. Ask the agent for evidence of sales in the area that support the seller's asking price. Don't lose a deal because you're offering an unrealistically low price on a quality property. Lastly, don't pay attention to the clearance rates. Clearance rates at the moment, the data has been skewed because the number of properties is quite volatile that's on the market at the moment. It's up and it's down. Last tip, seek professional help. All right, don't do this by yourself. You need to make sure that you spend a lot more time researching and a lot less time searching on realestate.com and Domain. Okay. It's been a pleasure speaking with you all today and addressing the CBD Chamber of Commerce. If you have any questions or you do want to get in touch with Providence Property Group, go to our website or contact me, Jay Pace at Providence. Have a fantastic day.